Back on the Colt 250. Finally got it stripped down as much as I'm going to take it anyway. And I spent about 2.5 hours or so getting this bearing off. It's bad. And I couldn't take the track out without getting that front spindle out, which requires taking this bearing off. And I had to modify my poor tool here to fit in there. I had to cut these off, cut this part off, because it was such a tight squeeze to fit into here to pull that bearing off. But finally got it. I'm hoping I can find replacement, because that one's toast. Got a couple cans of degreaser, so I'm just gonna try to spray it down for today and get some of the grease off so that I can do some sanding and a little bit of working at getting the rust off, I guess, and roughing up the paint without rubbing all that grease into the metal. So that's all I'm going to probably likely get done. I might take some donor metal from that old sled part to weld into here. That way a part of my 69 Scorpion lives on. And this guy here, I'm just going to lightly sand it up. You can just see that the sun, it's seen better days. I'm going to lightly sand it up. And to be honest with you, probably just going to brush like a coat of fiberglass on it, let that soak into there real well, and then lightly sand it, paint it with everything else. So, and I'm hoping tonight to sit down and order some parts for it. Some new bushings, bearing, and see what they got in the way of stator parts. So, alright, I'll update you when there's something new. So I got it sprayed. I'm just gonna do some wire brushing. Try to break some of this grease loose. So greasy, it's hard to know where to begin. I'm not going to film the whole thing. So I got that fairly well scrubbed down. I'm going to try to hose this off with our hose. We have terrible water pressure. So, yeah, that's as good as it gets. Actually quite impressed. I'll show you up close. 2 cans of degreaser, and it did an awesome job. I mean, it was thick with grease, so it did clean it, but you can kind of still see the water beading on the whole thing, so there's still some surface oils. And so I think I'm going to mix up some soapy hot Dawn dish soap water and scrub the entire thing by hand. I just really want to do this before I start sanding so that I don't grind that oils into the metal. So clean it first, then do the sanding and body work. By body work, pretty much welding that hole at the bottom. I'm not going to do any Bondo, obviously. You just pop out. So I'm gonna go get some hot soapy water. So I took some time to do a lot of behind the scene work, which basically amounts to tracking down a ton of parts that I need for this Polaris Colt 250. So, believe it or not, that takes quite a bit of work. To figure out what it is I need. For instance, one of the spindle that has the cogs on it that runs the track, one side where the chain case is didn't even have an oil seal, which would explain when I took the cover off why there's no oil in it. So you can definitely see there's the space in there for the oil seal, and I see one listed. So I got that. I haven't actually placed the oil, still making, or placed the order, but I'm still making a list. So I got, let's see if I can recall, the little round little brake shoes. Those were worn out, so I found a pair of those. I found one of the bearings that I took 2.5 hours beating off. I found 2 oil seals that I need. I'm trying to think of the list here. Oh, and then my ski posts for the skis were missing those plastic bushings. I think out of, there's supposed to be 1, 2, 3, 4. I only had 1. So I found those. Seems like there was some other stuff. I know there was some other stuff that I've ordered, but I can't think of it. So I'm gonna just double check, make sure I have all the right stuff. Then I'm going to place that order tonight. I went to a couple different stores today to try to find some paint that is a close match to the Polaris blue, and I couldn't find anything close enough for my liking. So I have to do some more investigation work on that. I'm not really motivated to work today, but having said that, I'm gonna flip this camera around, show you what it is I'm going to do, hopefully. So I'm gonna work on cutting that rust hole out, getting a piece of donor metal from the 69 Scorpion, hopefully anyway, welding it in there. And there's some heavy pitting. I don't think I'm gonna worry about it. I hate the idea of using Bondo, but I don't know, Bondo might at least fill in the pits so that it doesn't fill in with moisture, so it may be worth it. That flexes though, so I have my doubts. I may just leave it alone. So also under the front here, I won't flip it over now, but there's a little weak spot crack, and I'm going to attempt to weld that up. So it's just the 2 weldings, and I don't know, maybe I'll pop into the mood where I feel like sanding on it, but currently I do not feel like sanding on it. I did take air, compressed air, and I blew out all the nooks and crannies, and when I did that, it did spray, from stuff that I couldn't wipe off, it did spray out a little bit of oil here and there. So I'll probably hit it down with some degreaser, again by hand this time, before I start my sanding. I sanded this part down a little bit, and I kind of want to hit it with some fiberglass to kind of just, I don't know, protect it, I guess. I know that that's plastic, but I don't think it should hurt doing fiberglass. So, and I officially placed an order for this gas tank. I should keep them a separate project, so I won't even concentrate on that. So, well, let's get into it and see how far we get today. So, new day, same project, and a little bit of a change in plan, update. As you can see, and I did video all this, but I'm going to omit it from this video because I'm going down a new path, so no reason for you to watch that, then all of a sudden see a change. But I did successfully weld in a patch panel. Then I was looking through it and I could see little pinholes up in here, light. You can kind of see from the other side. These are all kind of welded from the other side. Part of me, to be honest, just wanted to, at this point, look away and consider that fine. De-rust it, prime it, paint it. That's what part of me wanted to do, and I still probably may end up wishing I did that. I don't know. These are old sleds. I know they're vintage, and that in its own right is cool, but these things, both my Polarises, are just absolutely beat. So I'm just trying to prolong them, but I thought, like most things I do, I'm going to try to shoot for the middle of the road, and that led me to run into town and buying this guy. Some pretty thin sheet metal. I was wanting it to be 47 inches long because I was going to take a piece literally from the back, clear up into here somewhere. But to get a length of this that was 2 foot by 4 foot, they wanted $29. This was 2 foot by 44 inches, so it was 3 inches short of what I actually wanted. But the price tag was $5 on it. And it is a budget build. Both, and you know, when I talk about a budget build, budget on money, yes, but also budget on time. I don't want to spend months and months on these two sleds combined. But I do feel it might be worth it dropping in a new piece of metal that gives it a new sheet of metal to sit there and do its thing and rust, which this one is at its end of life, really, as far as rusting goes. And I spent some money on some bearings and other parts, so I'd like them to run a few years. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna cut this out, cut that sheet down to fit, lay it on top, and get it welded in. So, not really feeling motivated, so that's probably as much as I'll do today. I do kind of want to go over, because in this front section, a lot of the paint is just coming off real easy. So if the paint comes off easy, I'd like to get it off. Then I'd like to hit everything kind of with a wire wheel, hit it with vinegar water, prime and paint it. I really wished I could find this blue. I love this Polaris blue, and I know I can find it, but I know I'm not going to want to pay the price of a high quality paint. So I'm leaning towards Rust-Oleum. They have a paint color called Midnight Blue, I think it is. And I half cringe the idea, but at the same time, it's the only way I can get through these projects is on a budget, a severe budget. All right, let's get started. So the inside of that tape line is where I'm gonna cut. And before I cut that out, I'm gonna measure where those posts are. That's the piece that, or those bolt on the thing that holds the gas tank and the seat on. So I'm gonna mark those out where those go, so that later I can just weld on some bolts or something. So definitely I want to have those measurements. And I'll probably just measure from something that's gonna remain solid, like this joint up here. So we'll get this cut out, get this other one cut to fit. I hope I have enough welding wire. I'm not gonna weld it solid. I'm just gonna kind of weld an inch, skip an inch, weld an inch, skip an inch. And when I do put on the new seat, I saw at the store these they're kind of like big rubber washers or grommets, and I want to put those. Well, I can't put them under there, but under the front of the seat, maybe have 3. Put some more underneath the seat, and then 3 in the back, or something, just so there's an air gap. Because I think that it would last a lot longer. Not only just the sheet metal, but also the plywood that they use for the bottom of these seats. So I'm gonna get to cutting. Got that piece of metal cut out, and I was gonna show you the underside. You can see where I started doing little pinholes from the underneath, but you can see all these rust dots. These actually are all from up above. They've almost rusted through, so I mean, if you could probably just take a pencil, like a sharp pencil, and poke on these rust dots and make holes all the way down. So got that one out. Let's see if we're about the same thickness. Yeah, thereabouts. I think what I bought might be slightly thinner. Is either I had to go slightly thinner, or the next remnant that they had was considerably thicker. So both due to weight, but also welding thicker metal to this already thin metal, you got to heat that welder up to burn into that thicker metal, but then you run the risk of blowing holes in your current sled metal. So all right, I'm gonna figure out the donor piece, get that all marked and cut. So there it is with the sheet metal all mocked up, not tacked or anything, just kind of sitting in place there. So that is the next step, is just kind of getting that welded on. I'm gonna kind of go around just tacking it at first, but looking sweet. Probably a good idea. I'm kind of glad I went this way, although let's see if I feel the same way after I weld it. So I got this sheet metal tacked on. It actually went really well. I don't think that there's any reason to do, full solid welds. I can't see any reason anyway. What I might do is flip it over and tack on that overlap. I might do that. Or I may not, I don't know. I'm gonna tack it over and have a look, see what the other side looks like. So here's what I'm thinking. You can see where my welds from the top are, and you can see the overlap. I don't think it needs it, but I think I'm gonna come in, just because it's going well, kind of having fun with it, and I think I'm gonna run some short beads on this lip. That just might make it a little bit stronger. I probably won't do as many as what I did on the top, but we'll see. So guys, what I've done is I've mixed up some vinegar water, and I've got all my bits and pieces down in there. Probably can't see them. And then the longer parts obviously won't fit, but what I'll end up doing, let them sit like this until they're done, then I'll just flip the long pieces over. If it doesn't quite get it all, it'll just, on the skis for instance, it'll just be a tiny little bit in the middle. Then I'm gonna put that guy in there after I remove this stuff. I'm gonna just end up priming and painting that whole entire thing, except for the ends of the shafts where the bearings and stuff go. Don't really want paint on that. So what I'm gonna do is swap gears. I'm gonna sand those by hand, and I think I'm gonna sand in its entirety the sled, just kind of roughly go over it by hand, and then I will scrub it down with vinegar water, rinse it, then I'll degrease it several times and consider it ready for priming and painting. like I said, I really don't want to spend a lot of time on these parts. So, and then tonight, I'm gonna look for an oil seal that I got in the mail today. It's the wrong size, even though it's listed for this year. That happens when working with this old stuff. So that pretty much is where I'm at. I'm gonna just continue on that, and then I'll check back in. So today I'm gonna work on these parts, get them scrubbed down, rinsed off with the vinegar water. And I bought some primer, and I bought one test can of paint, Rust-Oleum. I'm a little nervous. Anytime something says wood, metal, plastic, and more, indoor, outdoor, I'm a little bit nervous if it's gonna stand up to the abuse that a snowmobile can take. But this buddy here was, I think, $4.20 some a can. And I stopped at AutoZone. They had some paint. And the can was probably half this size. And they had a color that I've heard is pretty close to this Polaris blue. See if I can get a good shot. The sun's not working with me here. But those cans, half cans to this, were $10.49 a can. And I don't know, I'm gonna spray a little sample and just see how close we are. I know it's not gonna be Polaris blue, I know that. But I don't think the other would have been too. It might have lasted longer, but you know, another thing is I hate always paying more for something, thinking that it's gonna be better, and you find absolute no difference. So I'm gonna do a little test sample, and we'll see where this is at. All right, guys, I want to show you what this midnight blue is gonna look like. I know it's kind of hard to tell, and it is not absolutely the same. You kind of got to mind. Trying to get the light. So forget about. Every time I put my finger in there, it changes. Forget about the white ring and look towards the center right there. That is the blue as compared to out, you know, in the field, like this blue, from there to the center. So yeah, it's a little different, but it's pretty dang close. Close enough for me. So I'm just hoping it's kind of an okay quality. So, all right, we're gonna use it. So another thing I've decided to do, or actually, I mean, I have to do it, is these ski runners that go underneath the ski, those bolts are stripped out. I cut one of them off already. I was gonna pick it up, but it's pretty hot. And it's not gonna show up. There we go. You can see there's absolutely no threads on it. This one's a little better, but still the threads don't work that well. I probably actually need new ski runners. These are pretty worn, but budget build. So we're gonna cut that one off, and I bought new bolts that I'm gonna weld on. So I'll get them both cut and tack welded on there and show you. So one thing I've done, just to make sure I get this bolt tacked on in the right place, I went ahead and put my runner back on, put the bolt under there, and then I've just squeezed everything up tight with a clamp. So this way I can come in and I can just sort of tack it, then I'll take it back out and weld it up solid. Then I'll probably, I think, prime it, but then put it together and then paint it. Because if I paint it and then put the runner on, I'm just gonna end up scratching the paint all up. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this tacked up, and then we'll get this out of here. So guys, here's the finished product of these welded on. Not too shabby. So now I think I'm gonna continue working on kind of sanding, vinegar water. You can see just the surface rust on that. I'm gonna make up a batch of soapy dish soap so I can wash everything, get everything degreased one final time. And then I have some spray. It's rust. I'll show you. It's like a rust treatment. And I'm going to spray everything with this rust treatment. It said to give 2 or 3 light coats. So I'm going to do that. And then literally get everything ready for primer. Because I just really don't want to spend a whole heck of a time on this. I don't really want to turn it into a restoration. You can see, you know, this sled's pretty beat up. So, not like I'm trying to enter it in any sort of show or anything. Alright guys, I've started the priming. Got the skis primed. Got some parts over here primed. Kind of a bit of a bad news, really. I just went to the DMV and I took all the VIN numbers that were on this 3 sleds. Remind you, these are vintage sleds, and I mean they literally have been sitting in a farmer's field for years. And I've been sitting on them for quite a while, and it's not possible to go back and get a bill of sale. You know how these vintage sleds go. Last time this one right here that you're looking at was licensed was 1982. And state of Idaho, basically, I mean, every single thing I think about as far as a possibility of getting these things licensed, state of Idaho shuts it down. Though they looked all 3 sleds up, all 3 sleds that I got, they looked up. There's no record of them being stolen, you know, no reports of them being stolen. They've got the owner's name. Of course, they moved the screen when I was trying to look for the owner's name. They moved the screen so that I couldn't see it. And I don't know, I'm at a loss, wondering if I'm going to be able to license these. I'm now going to try to license them, you know, they're vintage sleds. I'm going to try to license them in Washington State and hope they're not so ridiculous as Idaho. If any of you have any sort of an idea, please, hey, let me know. Here's Chante helping. She's been doing some priming for me on the sled.
Flowers?
Again, this is the Polaris Colt 240. Just getting all the parts in primer. I'm gonna have to go to the store tomorrow and get some more primer, but kind of skipped some steps, but don't really care.
Dad, I'm all out.
Okay, that's our last can.
Wait, no, I'm not dead.
A jokester that one is. And then tomorrow we'll continue with some priming and get some more paint. So.
Don't bother me with
All
this
right.
side.
So guys, I had a change of heart here on the paint, and I actually went to pick up some of more of that midnight blue because it was pretty close. But when I got there, I ended up picking up this. It's still Rust-Oleum, or is it? No, it's Ace, but it's a rust stop. But it just seems like a bit better quality machine and implement. So I ended up going with this International Blue, and it's lighter, but if it lasts longer and is a better product, and this I think was $5 or so, $5.99 a can or something like that. So I know it's quite a bit lighter than the Polaris, but this is what she's gonna be. So I'm just gonna sit here and do some painting, try to get all my parts painted. I still have yet to sand this front and back bumper down and prep that. I started prepping the muffler. I got to get some muffler paint. And I've had these soaking in vinegar water. Probably gonna hit the whole entire damn thing, the cogs and everything, with just primer and paint. It'll wear off, but easier than sitting there and masking. So I'm gonna continue, and we'll see what she looks like. She's gonna be kind of bright. Not too shabby, guys. Really shocked that I kind of splurged on this paint. $5.99 a can. I like the Polaris blue better, but I'm hoping to get a little bit more life out of this paint. The other paint just kind of bothered me. When a paint says indoor or outdoor and you can use it on your wicker furniture, I really don't see it holding up. So give this a shot. There she is, sitting in blue. So I got both sides of that done. Got both sides of all these parts done. And this is just one coat. I went through 2 and not even probably a half, maybe a half, 2.5 cans for one coat. By the time I get these, all the little other, you know, bits and pieces, that's probably 3 cans for one coat. And I definitely will be getting some more paint. The shadows, it's so bad in here. But all blue. Alright, I'm gonna swap gears. Sand these up a bit. And I gotta go get some high temp black paint for those. Just for reference, guys, I kind of wanted to show you the difference in color. I know this isn't set up very well, but the leaf spring is the International blue. Behind it is the Polaris blue. I know it's kind of dirty. The Polaris blue, if it were cleaned up, doesn't really show up on camera, but it's kind of more, almost like it's got more of a purple tint to it, where the other is just kind of a blue. So if you are trying to restore and stay with Polaris blue, you would not want International blue. That being said, I think it looks pretty good. That's 2 coats right there. And that's probably all I'm gonna do.